pleasure to share the stage with Mr. Elumelu. Thank you so much. It was a very inspiring speech. And I think my first question, you believe private sector is the way forward, right? That means we need more entrepreneurs. Was there ever a moment in your life where you thought, this is hard, it's hard being an entrepreneur, I don't have the support, or it's difficult getting funds? And how did you personally overcome that difficult moment?
Can you hear me? Okay. For the journey to entrepreneurship is not a linear journey. It's not always moving in the same direction. You have the tough times. In our organization, the name of our organization is called Heirs Holdings. Heirs is an acronym for our core values, and the R in our Heirs acronym is resilience. Resilience is key in business. And I've had series. What you see at the end of the day for successful business people is this end point, end product, the success. But before you got there, a lot, But so there's not enough time to share all the failures or the personal experiences that didn't go well. But all I want to say is, you do and you would encounter difficulties in your journey. That is why it should be a long-term journey. And that is why we embrace resilience as one of our core values. When you face those difficult moments, those moments when you cannot sleep at night, thinking, some it could be hard to pay the next salary, some it could be hard to pay certain bills that you need settled to be able to move to the next stage. Remember what I'm saying today, there's R in Heirs. There's R that you must embrace, and that R is resilience.
Resilience is probably one of the most difficult things to of course, embrace and overcome. Is there anything that you can also do, or that we as society should do as a step before that, to make sure that people start being entrepreneurs and then test their resilience?
No, it's true. So when I founded the Tony Elumelu Foundation in 2010, one of the things we decided to do is, it's like the concept of the basis and the superstructure. Before entrepreneurs will succeed, you need to create the enabling environment for entrepreneurs to succeed. That is why statistically, there are some regions of the world that are prone to producing more entrepreneurs than other regions, because the enabling environment is predisposes or helps people to succeed. In Africa, where I come from, it's good, work, live, born, and everything in Africa is even more challenging. And so if I speak, you understand more, because if you succeed in Africa, you can succeed everywhere or anywhere else. What we did was to create what we call we worked with the government to create the National Competitiveness Council of Nigeria, because we realized that first things first, you must create the right environment if businesses must succeed. And businesses, there are a lot of challenges in succeeding, especially in that part of the world. But what is important is not just that problems exist. Problems that exist could actually become a competitive advantage if you know how to deal with those problems. So don't give up, resilience, and let us, Jeff, myself, and other people who are endowed, we should, if we are truly committed to helping create entrepreneurs, we should all be involved in helping to create the right environment that will make entrepreneurs to succeed. Because if we don't create the right environment for entrepreneurs to succeed, it will be very difficult for them to succeed.
It's very true. I was going to ask you about the other acronyms. You have R for resilience.
Yes. So
which one are the other ones?
The first, H-E-I-R. H is hard work, which I shared with you. E is emotional intelligence. In today's world, we have seen that social intelligence, emotional intelligence is good for success, both intra and inter relationships. The other one is integrity, I. It's very important to display transparency, integrity. You know, you make promise, you deliver on promise, especially if you're dealing with customers and co. Then the R is resilience, and S is synergies. You know, you must operate synergistically, especially if you're running more than one business. So that is actually the name of our organization, S Holdings. The S is what I just described, the acronym.
And so the resilience, does it also include failure? Because when we speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs, it's the ones that actually said, I failed, but I got up. And it was a badge of honor to fail, because that taught me maybe more than when I always succeeded.
You know, I think most businesses, you always have failure, difficult moments. That's when I say difficult challenges moments. either failed business and you start a new one, or failed initiatives. You might say, I want to do this in this way. And it could be a competitive strategy, it could be a tactical strategy, but the important thing is, I want to do this, and you fail in that area, you learn from that, and you fail in that area. I tell you one instance. When we were expanding, because at some point in 2005, we decided to turn the bank into a Pan-African bank to be able to fulfill the impact mission that we had at the time. And so my philosophy was, the market is huge, it's there, we're driven by this purpose to democratize and this and that, let's run very fast, and let's recruit this and that. But I found out that we had culture issues because we were growing so fast, culture issues. So what I did was to create a UB Academy, and now we recruit, we bring people to the training school, we train them like 3 months, and try to adapt in terms of culture, make sure that we blended the culture as much as possible. Because after a certain age, it's more difficult to change culture. It's easier when you start a new business, you grow with people, and they'll get to the top together. That you have culture that is cohesive. But when you get different people to support the growth of the institution at some stage, you have different cultures. So that was a major issue. I talk about it, people might think, is that a challenge? But it was a challenge, because if I had the wrong culture in an organization, it can actually destroy the spirit of an organization. So culture was one of the challenges we had. Now, how did I deal with that subsequently? I told you what I did. And we slowed down also growth at some point so that we don't grow too fast, that we'll not be able to integrate the cultures. So those are some of the challenges. But you do have challenges in business, a lot.
Therefore, the creative thinking is essential. Mr. Elumelu, thank you so much. Running out of time, so I want to invite the young leaders actually to come on stage for a fascinating conversation. We have 3 of the Skoll and MasterCard Foundation young leaders brought here from around the world. If you'd like to make your way on stage, if I can actually spot them, there they are. And they were actually chosen. So they were chosen for their leadership and abilities to actually change the lives of the most vulnerable. So I spent a bit of time with them backstage, and I have to say they really impressed me. I'm going to start with Marcel, so I'll just have a quick introduction. Marcel Fukayama, the CEO of CDI Center for Digital Inclusion, age 29, from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, he believes that technology is a powerful resource that can be used to alleviate poverty and empower people to rebuild communities and make the world a better place. Marcel co-founded CDI Social Enterprise, which transforms lives of low-income citizens through a network of community centers that have mentored over 1.5 million people by focusing on 3 key skill areas: soft skills, problem solving, and IT. He's also a leader of the B Corporation in South America. So that's Marcel. Ghislain, Morard, so he's country program director of Indonesia for Friends International, age 29, French, but has lived in Asia for the last 7 years, supporting vulnerable youth to access employment. Now, Ghislain was tasked with the opening of Friends International in Jakarta a year ago. He runs, manages, implements projects, supporting unemployed young people and caretakers to access better economic opportunities to build their future, but also that of their children. A lot of the work also includes protecting young children to keep them off the streets and integrating them back in public education, while making sure that their families also protect these young children. And then Aime Noela Akayezu. Noela is the Enterprise Program Support Officer for the Digital Opportunity Trust, age 25, from Rwanda. Noela has a real passion for empowerment. DOT, so this Digital Opportunity Trust, finds, engages, and trains unemployed university graduates that then go into local communities to inspire and train the most vulnerable youth from 16 to 24. These mentors, 30,000 in all, so this is not, they've actually trained 30,000 mentors in just 3 years, use a peer-to-peer approach to train and inspire through a variety of soft skills and technical skills that include business assessment of local market opportunities, job fairs, and links them with possible credit providers. Now, I was really impressed with all 3 of them because they were trying to achieve a similar object, but also went about it in very different ways. Marcel, I know you have questions for Tony Elumelu, so we'll get to that in a second, but I just want to ask, being here, what has been the best thing you've learned about how either you can improve what you're doing back home, change it, adapt it, or have you met people that have had really similar difficulties than you have?
Thanks, Francine. Thanks, Mr. Elumelu. It's been a great week. It's been a very inspiring week, and being here with a world-class global community of social entrepreneurs has been really inspiring to me as a social entrepreneur as well. So there are so many challenges, there are so many dilemmas that we go through on a daily basis, right? So being here, sharing, learning, connecting has been really inspiring, insightful. Being here at the Skoll World Forum, and especially here at this panel, is a dream come true to me as a social entrepreneur. And you know, here is the most thoughtful forum for social entrepreneurs. So, you know, we've been going through at CDI, you know, CDI is one of the first Skoll awardees, and we've been going through a major shift in the organization, and there are some dilemmas that I could share with other social entrepreneurs that are going through the same situation in terms of reinvention, in terms of how to go to the next level, how to thinking of the next 20 years, and that's how it's been very inspiring. Thank you.
So what's your first question, Marcel?
Well, as a tech guy or tech social entrepreneur from a tech organization, Mr. Elumelu, I'm very inspired by technology, and we've seen the past years that technology has empowered people a lot, especially in the past years to active citizenship, mainly in Brazil, where I'm coming from. We could saw the manifestation protests last year. In your vision, how technology could support Africa to overcome some challenges, including the fragile political democratic system?
You know, first is, Marcel, I'd like to congratulate you for what you've achieved, and to urge you on, and say that the world is your operating theater, not just Brazil. We need what you're doing. In Africa, just 2 days back in New York, I was discussing with a lady who was involved in the innovation, certain innovation that came out of East Africa, Kenya, I think USAID, something about how to manage, conduct elections and make sure that you empower citizens to defend the votes. And I was telling her, I said, when are you going to do this in other African countries? Because we need this across the continent. You know, what you're doing here about entrepreneurship, what we're all doing, actually, not just you, about entrepreneurship, you have to have, as I mentioned not long ago, the enabling environment. An enabling environment is provided largely not by the private sector, but by government. So it is important that we all show interest in how governance evolves, how it emerges, how people make sure that the people we want to rule or lead us are actually the people who are leading us. And I think that technology is very crucial in playing this kind of role. So for Africa, we need it, but then it takes me to a passion that I have, and that is the issue of access to electricity. You know, we need to access to electricity, energy, to make sure that technology, because most countries will tell that the reason that they don't have breakthrough technological innovations for elections and selection and society, civil mobilization, is because of electricity issue. So we do have some challenges, but if we can have a technological device or system that would operate irrespective of electricity, that would be very nice, so that all the areas in the world, so maybe this is an idea that social entrepreneurs should take further. But we need to see how to make it work. There's a role for technology to play in helping advance good governance and making sure that with the instrument of good governance that people do the right thing. We can actually empower the society through technology.
Thank you. Noela, I was fascinated by your story because you do basically peer-to-peer. So it's putting people in the community that can help directly, that live with the community, and these are undergraduates that are not employed. And this is going back to the environment, right? Creating the right environment for people to learn skills. Has anything that Mr. Elumelu said resonated with you? And what's your question to him?
What I ran through his speech was mostly the element that led to his success. So I think that is something that can build upon on and try to apply it on my country as well, as we are facing special issues due to our history, and we are trying, the peer-to-peer methodology is the best that is working, as young people are those who know the issues that the other young people, their peers are facing. They know better their community, and it is best to use them to build the community. So my question comes on one of the elements you talked about, trying to see beyond today and actualize it. So I kind of have an issue of in my community, or some young people, their dream is just to have a meal on their table. As we are in a poor country, just having a meal, having something to put in their stomach is the dream, the big dream they can achieve. So I'm wondering how you could advise us. How can we approach? How can we get them to have bigger dreams and try to build on them to build our community?
This is a very interesting question, by the Noela. But I think maybe let's put it this way. Again, this doctrine of first things first. So to those people, so if you're not eating, what's more important is I want to be able to eat, and so how do we inspire people like this? How do we get people like to look at the bigger picture? I think that, again, is one area that most of us, especially in Africa, who have operated in Africa and have attained a certain level of comfort, economic comfort in Africa, need to come up and do something about. We need to mentor people. We need to share our own stories. We need to let people know that the Tony Elumelu you see today were not born like that. That we all suffered, brought up from very difficult environments and faced our own challenges, but we kept the hope alive. We saw beyond today, and we saw a future that someday we thought would come true, and that encouraged us. But it takes also political leadership to help to create the environment. We need to encourage people to go to school. We need to encourage people to go to school. We need to encourage parents to send children to school. We need to make sure that the kind of, lack of access to jobs is a major factor, a major challenge in Africa. The reason those kids will be thinking of only meals because maybe their parents are not economically active. They are not engaged. They don't have jobs. So a starting point for us would be to see how all of us, both in Africa and outside of Africa, I shared with them United Nations 2 days back on Wednesday that the world cannot fold its hand and see Africa with the challenge of unemployment we have continue in that manner. So we need to make sure that economic hope is created. People go into terrorism, people think short-term like you described because of lack of economic hope. If they see that they can go to school, things can improve, if they see if their parents get access to good employment, their parents will be able to feed them, encourage them to take them to school, and they'll begin to see new leads of life. So, answer to your difficult question, first is political leadership should create the right environment. 2 is the private sector. We should try to help improve access to gainful employment on the continent. 3 is we need to do role modeling, mentoring, role modeling for people to hear our stories and know that they too can become bigger than we are today, so that hope they will have hope. So I think if we do a combination of all of this, we'll be able to encourage people to think beyond where's my next meal going to come from.
And Ghislain, this is one of the things that exactly your foundation does, is basically economic hope, right? What is the one challenge or the question that you get asked the most about with people that need to be inspired to have that economic hope to maybe either think differently or train in different skills?
Right. We work with young people who are very marginalized. A lot of them have been living on the streets, working on the streets for a very long time. And people always wonder how we can support them to move on from that, to build the hope that they need. And you mentioned resilience as an essential quality of entrepreneurs, and we find that these young people are actually among the most resilient you could meet. And they've also been making their way to live on the streets, to make a living. They've been very creative, they gain business skills. They actually have a lot of the qualities that you would expect from an entrepreneur. Yet when it comes to actually supporting them to start a more formal, a more stable business that could support them, support their family, very often because they've been stigmatized, they don't acknowledge the skills that they have. And as you mentioned, Francine, it's about hope. It's about self-esteem. They don't see themselves as the entrepreneurs that they really are. I suppose with your foundation, you deal with the same type of issues and the same type of young people. Do you have any advice on how to inspire young people and give them the confidence that they need to become entrepreneurs?
Well, let me share with you some of what we do. So let's say we have people who are leaving school, who are graduating from schools. So we try to take some of them, and we'll call them the Tony Elumelu Fellows, and we create networking platforms for them. We invite them to events like this. We mentor them. We give them financial support. We also invest in businesses, good businesses that they have, that we think can create maximum impact. Let me say that you watched the presentation before I came on stage about Planet Lab. We invested in Planet Lab. It's our part of a way we also contribute to supporting entrepreneurs who have great ideas. I would say that economic hope is very important. It's the reason people wake up in the morning and want to do things, because you believe that tomorrow will be better than today. And all of us have a role to play to make sure that we continue to instill, encourage, and give hope to people economically. And so that means people need to know that if they go to school or go to vocational centers, at the end of the day, they'll be employed, they'll be engaged. If people have that hope, then they don't mind spending 10 years going to school, because they know at the end of the day, life will be better for them. But it is a lack of hope that creates problem for mankind. And to me, that's one of the greatest threats that we all face as mankind in the 21st century. We need to see how collectively we can empower people by giving them economic hope that is realistic. If people see their neighbor succeed, they will want to succeed. But if all you see around you is hopelessness, then there's no reason to live.
We have another question from Marcel, but Tony, I have a question, because do we need to change our language a little bit? We talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about disruptors, but actually, as Ghislain was pointing to, there are people that maybe live on the streets, but that sell things, that are natural-born entrepreneurs, and yet are scared of seeing themselves an entrepreneur and therefore found a company. Do we need to talk differently, maybe, and call them something else?
So at our foundation, we're using a certain terminology. We used to say that we try to catalyze. So after a while, we said, maybe this big grammar. Let's break it down and leave this. So economic hope, economic empowerment. Somebody has business, SMEs, entrepreneurship, in my viewpoint, is one and the same. The key thing is that people should be engaged productively. People should be productively engaged. Either engaged, you can be engaged just to support your family alone. You can be engaged to support the community. You can be engaged. You can help hire one person. You can just hire only yourself. But the important thing is there should be one form of economic activity or the other. People should not wake up and not have what to do. That is what creates unrest for society. That's what we should move against. And I agree that at times maybe entrepreneurship is too much a word. Then if entrepreneurship is too big, then what is social entrepreneurship? The important thing is for us to be sure that we are productive. and to be sure that we're productive, yes.
Yeah, engaged is a great word. Marcel, your question.
Mr. Elumelu, when we see your investments on Planet Labs, it's an indicator about some trends globally. And you are one of the creators of one of the most disruptive model for mobile banking in Africa. And you are quite experienced in that. So in your vision, your ambitions for disruptive technologies and trends, what is in your vision, what are the next global trends? I know that Planet Labs could be one of them, but what else?
So it's asking me what's the next big thing to happen in the world. I wish I knew. But for me, the way I try to envision, the way need or innovation or creativity comes from need, at times, So just like what I said before, when we started, it was banking, but I felt you need to understand what's happening around you. So what are the needs? There are a lot of needs today in the world, and so it's a question of having a structured approach to thinking it through and say, okay, what can be the next big thing? But for me in Africa at this point in time, I would say that we need to improve access to electricity. It will help change the face of the continent. So any form of any innovation that can help to increase access to electricity in Africa will do very well. Two is the issue of the elections, or how to engage the civil society, how to engage the masses in how governance is shaped, how leaders emerge is very important. We're beginning to see a correlation between good governance, is there, good governance and economic development. And so whatever we can do by way of innovation to enhance the mechanism and the process that produces our leadership, it will be wonderful. You'll not only be making money, but you'll actually be helping a continent, because we need to figure out how to ensure that our wishes are actually reflected in how we are governed.
Noela.
Yeah. I would like to learn a little bit more about your experience. When you started, what was your biggest fear?
I think when I started, maybe beyond even your fear, it's just general challenge. So for me, when we started, we were quite, we had good knowledge in terms of knowledge of what we wanted to do. We are quite clear what we want to achieve. But you see, it's not what you alone, what you think, or what you want to achieve. People actually have to buy into it and support it. If they don't, you don't make progress. So the greatest challenge we had at the time, personally, I became CEO of a bank at a very young age, at the age of 34. And it was largely unheard of at the time. First, when I was a brand manager, I was 26 years old. And so your brand managers were people who of a certain gray hair and co. And so it was difficult getting society to accept this. And so I know there was a time they used to call us cowboy bankers. Don't have those cowboys. In fact, I remember someone told me they saw my picture in the papers and that I had a low cut. All these people, what haircut? When you have a low haircut, look at them looking like cowboys. So I had that challenge. I know banking is a trust game. It's a trust business, and if people call you cowboys or call the team cowboys, then you're dead on arrival. So what we did was we were mindful of this, because I say to people, a problem identified is a problem half solved. You need to know, get feedback. So we knew how people felt, and we changed. That's why we decided, you know what? Whether people call us cowboys or not, if you want to transfer money to your child who is 100 miles away, you would rather go to a bank that will help you do that than physically move that money, because there are a lot of risks associated with that. So we use technology. We deploy technology for online real-time banking, and we had wide network in terms of coverage, and so people came to us. And over time, people started realizing that these are not cowboys. So the first problem was that acceptability. It was very tough. And two also is like the issue of hope. So you're used to a country, a society where to become like a bank CEO or a top person in banking, you needed to be son of Jeff, Jeff Skoll. You needed to be Jeff Skoll's son. And suddenly you want Tony. Tony who? Who? So you had to deal with that to create confidence. But today it's all a thing of the past. So the message, actually, entrepreneurs is, depending on your line of business, you will face certain teething, very bright question. You will face certain teething problems. But let this not deter you. Be quite resilient, stay focused, think long term, and as you encounter these challenges and difficulties day by day, just say to yourself, it's a matter of time. Tony shared this experience with us. If Tony overcome, I will overcome. That is the way to go about it.
We're doing a number of the things that you try to do with your foundation in Southeast Asia, right? Also trying to encourage young people to find markets for their businesses and to start businesses. And we see a lot of programs that are trying to achieve that in Southeast Asia. And what we find that a lot of them use materials and curriculum that maybe are not culturally relevant because they come directly from other countries where they've been created and tested, and they're being imported to Southeast Asia and being used and not always adapted to the culture, and therefore don't always work. I was wondering if that's also something that you've experienced in Africa, and whether you see a need for a specific African culture of entrepreneurship to be developed and supported.
No, I think entrepreneurship, my viewpoint, is the same, universal. However, there are peculiarities in how you succeed. As I said before, you have some areas are more predisposed by way of the enabling nature of the society, the environment, to succeed than some other areas. So if you are in Africa, for instance, doing business in Africa, it's different from doing business here. Here, you have electricity, for instance, access to electricity is given. In Africa, you have to improvise for electricity. So it could make the journey more difficult for you, but basically it's all about the same principles of entrepreneurship. One makes you more rugged than the other. There are a lot of institutional challenges that you have more maybe in Africa, India, some areas of the world than in some other areas. But what that does is it toughens you, and that is why the Tony Elumelu Foundation is quite committed to not only developing entrepreneurs, but making sure that the enabling environment in Africa is improved upon so that people like yourselves on the continent who want to excel, who want to do well as entrepreneurs, have the opportunity and the environment to do well. So I think we should create a better society working together. We need more Jeffs doing great things like this. Jeff, this is very good.
Tony, thank you so much. We're running out of time, but I'm just going to ask you a very short question.
Sure.
How different is it being a CEO of a profit organization, and how difficult and different it is for a foundation? Because actually, if you leave profits to one side, you still want results for both.
For me, what I have come to realize through what we did in the private sector, or what I did for profit, which is captured in this concept of Afro-capitalism, which is private sector invest long-term in key sectors that will help drive growth and development while making economic profit and social wealth. So the question of trying to do both simultaneously, no longer make money first, and after you've made money, then start doing good. We can. I guess that's what all of you are doing here. When our group invested in a power plant in Nigeria, we committed to the President Obama's $2.5 billion, to President Obama's Power Africa initiative, and we committed $2.5 billion to it. A starting point for us to invest, acquire a power plant. When we acquired a power plant, we wanted to make money, but more importantly, we wanted to help deal with the issue I've been talking about here. Access to electricity is very, very important. So the way we see things these days is the line between doing good and doing well. We think one does not have to follow the other. We can do both actually simultaneously. In fact, at times in the country, people wonder if Tony Elumelu Foundation is Heirs Foundation, because they say we do certain things. We encourage entrepreneurship through the foundation. We do impact investment, like what the Planet Lab talked about. We support, not necessarily for profit motive. Profit should come for sustainability, but to do good, to make sure we help society, we help mankind. And we help ourselves in the process also, because what is good for Mr. A is good for Mr. B, so it's good for everyone. So the experience, is it different? To a large extent, not. Because in profit, you're driven by dollar and cent. For non-profit, if you're focused on making a change, transformation to the world, bring transformation to the world, you say we want to create, for instance, 10,000 entrepreneurs. That's a goal. So the way you pursue the $1 billion goal, you're also pursuing this goal that you want to create 10,000 entrepreneurs. That is what we do. That's what I so encourage for others to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.